afternoon, everyone. And we are mobile, double mobile. We have the incredible Blaine Bartlett. And I was just telling Chad here, Chad Reid is here, the vice president of Jotform. I was saying how blessed we are. You and I are a little bit more experienced when it comes to doing shows over the years. And if somebody would have told me the quality of content that we could distribute while we're in a car, while we're on planes, while we're in foreign countries, I would tell you it's one of the things that I'm most amazed about and grateful for, because we're able to share, as Napoleon Hill did, but much more effectively and efficiently, incredible information from incredible guests. And one of those is here today with us, BlaineBartlett.com, my mentor and the Mindset Mastermind masterpiece himself. Thanks for joining me. Where are you today, Blaine, by the way?
I am in Seattle today. Had a couple of business meetings, and I'm on my way back to catch a ferry to get back over onto the island.
Oh, nice.
How fun.
Well, I was wondering why why Blaine's connection was so good, because he's in Seattle, not Whidbey Island. I would say Blaine's so rich he doesn't need internet. That's what they out there on the island. It's all those people. You're wealthy when you don't even need the internet, Chad. Anyway, it certainly is a pleasure to have you here on Office Hours. And Jotform has caught my eye, obviously coming from a space that I used to be in, and understanding how to use better information to power our business. What are some of the things today with the data collection side of Jotform that has really made a significant impact in providing more, as we have here on our platform, just more capabilities and more power for business?
I mean, the thing is, every single business, regardless of what industry you're in or how big or small, or whether you're a nonprofit or you're a government or you're a hospital, you need information, and you need an easy way to collect it. So the amazing thing about Jotform, and one of the things that gets me excited about working at this company, is that it never gets stale. We have every single type of company that we're helping, and it's just been so fantastic. For a high level overview, Jotform is a way to create and publish online forms. That's the simplistic way. But really, it's a way to save time and resources, and make any person more productive. So it's great. It's we get to see hospitals collecting patient information. We get to see major universities collecting student information. We get to see Fortune 500s, surveying their customers, running contests, you name it. So it's there's always something different, and having for any business to be able to deploy that kind of technology is going to make them more productive, more efficient.
When you talk about forms, if I got the numbers right here, you host 20 million different forms for 15 million users. That boggles my mind.
It's a lot of forms.
It's a lot of forms.
It's a lot of forms.
It really is. And for those of you that are listening, just forms. Just the idea of a form. That is not something that I would typically think of, yet my business depends on how I access data. And I've got to have form structures in order to put that into play. And that's not something I've ever really deliberately and consciously visited. In the work that you do with your clients, how bespoke is the design process?
From a user perspective, the design customization is pretty endless. One of the things is about Jotform that's kind of unique about us compared to maybe how people would experience Google Forms. I reference Google Forms. They serve a purpose in our broader marketplace. But whenever someone sees something like Google, they know exactly what that is. It's branded as such. But with Jotform, you can camouflage it to look exactly like your site. So oftentimes I stumble across one of our users, one of our customers, and it's not plainly obvious to me. I might have to dig into their source code or something, and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe what they did using our product. So it's cool. I never thought when I got started at Jotform 8.5 years ago that I would be so excited by forms, but here I am.
And
It's the small things in life.
Yeah, right.
yeah, and Chad, obviously, today one of the most technological capabilities is artificial intelligence, and I assume it's interplaying within the context of forms as well. What are some of the things now through artificial intelligence that we can see that are enhancing the Jotform platform and the capabilities of Jotform?
We're still kind of in the early exploration of that, to be perfectly honest. I'd say not as much artificial intelligence as human and developer intelligence is probably going to things at present moment. But, it's something that we're always mindful of, and we certainly want to stay out in the forefront as it becomes safe and helpful to our customers.
Now, that idea of the form, I'm going to come back to this because most people, when they think of forms, they think of a data repository.
Mm-hmm.
But your background, you've got a background in communication and storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very interested in terms of how you're actually seeing forms used as a narrative instrument that simplifies access to data.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things to do at Jotform, and I think this is going to be true with a lot of companies in our technology or B2B technology space. Jotform by itself isn't nearly as interesting as some of the stories that we get to tell about our users, right? So our customer case studies are just so fascinating and so interesting, and from like the narrative and storytelling component, one of my favorite ones that we one of our favorite stories that we just told recently. I don't know how up on your celebrity hippopotamuses you guys are, but the Cincinnati Zoo 6 years ago birthed a baby hippo named Fiona, and she's a global sensation. But this past summer, she had a brother, and it was major news. All of a sudden, I saw a Jotform being blasted all over CNN and NPR and a myriad of other publications, but they were using it to collect naming suggestions for this new hippo, and it's just like, sometimes you just wake up and you don't know what you're going to see, and that's my favorite part of this job is you get to see really cool, amazing user stories, and I kind of see it a major part of my job as a marketer to tell those stories and make sure people see them.
And in line with telling those stories, there's also a huge ROI, or your ability to tell a story about articulating quantitative value of forms. And on the surface, I agree with Blaine. Most people, when they think of Jotforms or forms, they just think of filling out something, but it's much more complex with that. It is something that has a quantitative value in workflow and reports, even in the most essential component today, statistically, which is accepting payment. If we could cancel out all the dropped payment forms, we would exponentially grow the GNP at a rate that would just astound people. What are some of the stories that aren't quite as emotional as hippopotamuses, but are more bottom line stories that attract business?
Payments certainly gets to the root of it, right? We have an enormous and continually growing payment sector of Jotform users. We have really great payment processing partners. So Square is one, Stripe is one, PayPal. I mean, if there's a major payment processing company globally, we're working with them so that one of our users can basically simplify their payment collection in addition to their customer information that they're collecting at the same time. So we're talking event registration fees or application fees or product orders or nonprofit donations. We saw an enormous growth during the pandemic because, in healthcare, because all of a sudden, all of these in-person and paper workflows that hospitals were using, they couldn't do anymore. When everything went online. So bill pay for hospitals is really big with Jotform, and we're also HIPAA compliant, so it's kind of a double benefit to be able to use something as simple as a form to all of a sudden also have HIPAA compliance that you can accept payments and safely collect patient information. So sometimes it's just the little things like that, but they can really power a business, and a lot of our customers really depend on that.
On the user side, I was filling out a form today for an alumni association that I'm a member of in a university.
There you go.
And it was a little frustrating because, and I'll go back to narrative and story on this thing. Mm-hmm. Filling out the form, it was frustrating because it was a repetitive data collection piece, and it didn't seem to have a flow to it.
Yeah.
So, if I put it, a story has a flow. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Totally.
So in the design process, how much of the actual designing of a form is informed by a narrative that is taking the user from a starting point through a process to an end point, and they're going to go, well, that was a nice journey.
Yeah, Blaine, that's a great point. There's a book. It's an old book now, but the principles of it hold really well, and you'd have to really nerd out on forms to appreciate it. But this woman's name is Caroline Jarrett, and she's the self-proclaimed queen of forms. And I think the book was Forms That Function. And one of the key things that she hones in on is there needs to be a conversation. There can't be can't be random. You have to think about the user experience as people are filling out a form, and you have to decipher between what you need and what you want. When you're asking questions, and it has to make sense. So flow is hugely important, and that's something that we probably could do a better job of just explaining this to our users. And we have a lot of education material on this, but those who pick it up and really kind of pay attention to the conversation that they're having with their customers and their potential customers through their form is really invaluable. And the things that just take a little bit of extra time, but make a big difference. Yeah.
Great.
And to be able to use Jotform, it's applicable to everyone. And whether you're a nonprofit, an educational institution, a small business, or a huge enterprise, there's always great value in utilizing Jotform. Why recreate the wheel? Why not go to the experts to figure out how to utilize that top of funnel best? And forms are a great conversion tool, as well as a data collecting, reporting, and even payment tool that can facilitate an extraordinary amount of efficiencies, effectiveness, and statistical profitability, which is what I love about Jotform. No matter who you are and what you're doing, you should go to Jotform first at jotform.com. Chad, Reid, thanks so much for putting up with the both of us on our cars. We certainly learned a ton about how forms are utilized, how much value they bring, and how important storytelling is in the context of form. That's my big takeaway. So thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Good to meet you.
You're awesome. We'll have you back, my friend. Thank you.
Sounds
good. We're looking to just cut him off real quick. That was nice. That's like, all right, enough with you. Enough with you, Chad. We're going to bring Jennifer on. Fill out a form if you got to complain.
Fill out a form and get back to us on that.
And get back to us, right? We just complain about you. That's okay. Jennifer is coming on now, hopefully, as Raluca is taking over our producing responsibilities and doing a great job. And Jennifer Dawn is here, founder of Jennifer Dawn Coaching, and she's the best planner ever. Can you ask for anything more? I'm going to start off, first of all, welcoming you, Jennifer, to the mobile office hours. We're trying something new. Blaine and I, we're proving that technology is much better than we are. So welcome to the mobile office hours. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. When I first hopped on, I was like, uh-oh, am I supposed to be in my car for this? Because I'm in my office. So
shit. That is so great. We should have made you get in your car.
Absolutely.
We could have our own taxi cab diary or whatever they call this thing. That's so cool. That's a great idea. Maybe Thursdays will be mobile Thursdays instead of thankful Thursday. But more importantly, you are one of the best planners, if not the best planner ever. And I have an old saying, in order to be a best planner ever, you have to know the rule of planning. And the rule of planning is that if you want to make God laugh, come up with a well-developed plan. And you and I both know as great planners, Blaine, that the crux of that statement is that you have to have prioritization and adaptability when you make a plan or you're in big trouble. What are some of the key aspects of understanding prioritization of time and adaptability or flexibility when we're constructing the best plans ever?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best planner ever is actually my daily planner. And there was a time several years ago where I was the head of a national women's networking group, and they used a planner, and I tried to use it because I was the president of the organization. And I was like, I'm supposed to be able to make this work for me. And it just didn't work. And so when I left and I started my own coaching practice, I came up with my own planner. And I remember telling my husband, because I started using it, and I was like, honey, this is the best planner ever. And he's like, it is? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to name it that. And he's like, you are? And I'm like, I am. And then I checked and the domain was free. And I was like, that was a sign that it was like, that was going to be the name of the planner. And so that's how it all came to be. And of course, because being an entrepreneur, I had to make it a business because it just was the right thing to do. But one of the things that I love teaching when I work with a lot of business owners, I love teaching them about prioritization and where your time is going, because time's your best asset. You can always make more money if you manage your time well. And so I always want to teach them, manage your time well. But I like to call it like gentle structure. I still want to flow. Things are going to happen. It's going to hit the fan. We need to be able to, roll with the punches. But when you sit down to plan your day, I teach everybody the ABCs of productivity. And so the A is your A task. Your A task is that task that you need to do every day to move the needle forward. And often we find it's that thing that we want to procrastinate, we want to put off, right? We're business owners. We don't want to deal with our technology. It's like, I don't want to set up Jotform today. So but like if you set it up and you streamlined and you automated, it would save you time, it would save you money. And so what I like to teach is like, every day try to knock out at least one A task, one thing that will move the needle forward on your business, on your life, that we might want to procrastinate, but let's do it anyway. Let's get out of our comfort zone. Let's put it out there. And then of course, the rest of the day can flow however it needs. But when you go to bed every night and you got that at least one thing done every day that's going to move the needle forward on your goals, like that, it feels really good when you go to bed at night.
How many A goals do you suggest that people hold?
Great question,
The
by the way.
the A task. So in my planner, there's 3 lines. So 1 to 3. And it doesn't have to be like a 3-hour thing that we get done every day. It could be a 5-minute thing. It might just be that email we need to send or that phone call we need to make. And that's okay. And so I say, 1 to 3 A tasks a day, totally fine. If you have, the capacity to do more, I like to think of a dial, right? Some days we can dial it up. Great. And we can do more. If we have more time, we don't have a lot of scheduled calls, and we can really knock out a bunch of our A tasks, great. Some days we're slammed, dial it down, just do one thing, but just don't turn the dial off. That's the trick. Just don't turn that dial off and not do anything. But your A task can always be just, sometimes it's just a 5-minute thing. Sometimes a phone call we need to make can open a door of opportunity that would not have gotten open because we were, quote, too busy, to make that phone call.
Yeah, when I was in Japan, I ran the what at the time was the largest business consulting firm in Asia, one of the 2 largest, and we ended up developing our own planning tool. We called it Kudo, which is Japanese archery. So the idea was to hit a target. Well, the clients that we worked with, the ABC structure, which is not new. Franklin Covey has something similar to that, and that sort of a thing. But and I'm intrigued here with what you're doing with this, Jennifer. The idea of the for the sake of what? What does that A goal make possible? What does that A objective make possible? that A priority make possible. And David, you talk about this all the time. If I'm not doing money making activities, about 80% of the day, I'm probably going to be missing the boat in a big way. So, how do you school, and I mean school, with your coaching work, people to begin to make that distinction, to begin to appreciate that that's really what the A is intended to produce?
It's such a great question, and it's very interesting to me how so many of the people I work with don't just intuitively know what their A task should be. And it's not that they're not very, very smart people. It's just they're used to working and managing their time in a different way. And so when you have to start planning your day with the A task in mind, it changes your thinking. Because when I sit down to plan my day, my first question is, what's that thing? And as a business owner, and what I teach is, what's the thing today that I need to do to make money? My cash task, right? What am I going to do today to make cash? It could be, what am I going to do to save cash if I'm, strapped for cash flow? It could be either of those, but what am I going to do? And so I go through this process of helping business owners start to change their thinking, because it really is sometimes shocking to me how a busy task that's easy for them to be like, every day, this is all the stuff I've got to do. But when you have to start really changing your thinking of, well, what am I going to do today to get forward, to move myself forward? Like they will have a hard time with that. And so one of the things that I will do is just like sit there with them and brainstorm and be like, that's not your A, this is your A. And then through that process of helping them, like, or I'll even say, show me your to-do list for today, and I will help you ABC it. And then they go, oh, okay. And then they start to really understand it, because you have to sort of get into that way of thinking. And then once you get in there and you can start to create the habit, and that I really think is the key, is we've got to have that consistent every day, show up, start thinking in a different way. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And then it'll just start to be easy. And then it just sort of becomes who you are. You just sit down and that's how you start working, if you can do it for long enough to develop that habit.
And, I send a lot of people, Jennifer, your way for your productivity podcast and how to be productive, accessible, and gracious, which are the lenses in which I try to empower people. And you do, and you are, and your reputation has held up to making things simple. But I was curious about a takeaway that I've noticed over the last few weeks, and it has come to an expression that really resonates more and more as I have more and more interviews and more guests. And it's this idea that, if it's simple to do ABC, unfortunately, it's simple not to do. And as a coach, I have found that I am very good, and I know Blaine's excellent at this, at simplifying things. And I used to think that, hey, I just simplified this to say thank you before you go to bed and when you wake up. It's 0.1 seconds. It's free. I guarantee in 30 days, it'll change your life. It's so goddamn simple, and everybody knows it, no matter what or who you talk to, what thought leader, what book, what religious text. They all say the same thing about gratitude. But it's so simple that unfortunately it's simple not to do. And so how do we get people to do the simple shit to make their lives better?
That's such a great question, because my podcast is Happy Productive, and the reason that I named it that is because of the element of happiness. Happiness is really, really important, and if happy people tend to be more successful, they tend to be more productive, and so really it's about helping people kind of step into that happiness and work on their productivity. So what I like to do is help them just get some quick wins. And sometimes those quick wins can kind of help give us the motivation to be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't as hard as I thought. I can handle that. A lot of times we're overwhelmed, we're burned out, we're stressed, we got all this stuff going on. So that even just adding sometimes a little bit more to our plate can feel like too much. So I do like to simplify so that it's like, okay, I can handle this. And then just start making a little change, a little change. And if we can get them some quick wins, so they start to get a little bit of relief, that can really help. But, and David, this, like there's a little bit of that like tough love, if we want to call it that has to go along, because people, if you really want to be happy and you really want to be more productive, you're going to have to make some changes. You're going to have to stop being a victim. You're going to have to heal your crap, and you're going to have to do the work. And that's it. And you may not like to hear that, but that is the truth. And that's what's going to happen. So we can simplify it so we all understand it. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to do the work. If you want to really be productive, you're going to have to put your butt in the chair, use a system, pick one, and do it. And if you don't want to, that's okay. But, you're not going to get the result that you're after.
Right. Yeah, I love the technical term that you introduced there, which is a success criteria. Heal your crap. Just heal your crap. Yeah. Be ready to do the work. Yeah. Do the do. You got to do the do. And this is what and this is what the planner makes possible, is identifying what's the do and then prioritizing it so that you're ready to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. But before we cut you loose here, and we'll get David reconnected here in just a minute, I want you to talk about this a little. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. You started selling, your first entrepreneurial job was to sell apples out of your grandfather's apple tree because the lemonade stand was, quote unquote, so yesterday. I would love to hear the story and it doesn't have to tie into planning, but I'm just really curious.
It's all good. It's so funny because I would spend summers with my grandparents, and I came from a very dysfunctional, abusive family, but the summers were a blessing because I would spend the whole summer with my grandparents, and they were chiropractors, and their home and their office were both attached. And in the front yard is an apple tree. And I remember standing in the front yard, and I was just like, apples were falling off the tree onto the ground. I could see the steady stream of patients going in and out of the office. And I was just like, I'm going to do an apple stand. And the adults said, no, you should do a lemonade stand and sell that to the patients. And I'm like, no, like all kids do that. I need to do something different. And so I did the Apple stand, and it was the best business ever. Okay. Free inventory, steady stream of clients, never had to market anything, little kid out there selling apples, easiest sale you've ever made. And I remember, though, I still remember the feeling. I would hold these shiny quarters like in the palm of my hand. And I was just so amazed that I had a thought, and I did a little work, and it turned into money in my hand. And just that whole concept, I just fell in love with that as a young child. And seeing my grandparents, they were healers, and having them help people, but their home was there too. So when we talk about like work-life balance, to me, that was just, it was so beautifully integrated that they were healing people, earning money, still with the family. My grandfather would take a break from his office, walk out into the backyard. He had an acre garden. He'd pick some tomatoes, come in, put them on the counter, go back, help a patient. It was just this beautiful thing, and I really fell in love with it. But yeah, so the entrepreneurial spirit that bug bit me pretty young.
That's what I wanted to hear. I love
it. You literally took a bite out of the apple, exactly. And now she's the apple of her parents' eyes, and we appreciate her, Jennifer, coming on and helping us be happy and productive, and learning how to plan to be happy and productive, and how to actually execute on doing so. Check out the podcast. If you need a coach on how to be happy and productive, to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun, JenniferDawnCoaching.com. You can check out her podcast as well. Please promise me you'll come back and help us more with our happiness, our joy, and productivity. Thank you again for your patience with the mobile and movement. I'm now back in the closet like most 55-year-old middle-aged men, and I appreciate you joining us.
Awesome, guys. Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me here. Next time, let me know. I'll be in my car if we want to do the next mobile episode.
That's our new show. Exactly. Taxi Cab Diaries with Jennifer Dawn. Thank you so much.
Love it.
Thanks,
all right. Thanks, guys.
What a great guest. Thank you.
That's good fun.
If we're not gonna have fun, Blaine, we're not doing this. We didn't start this to be serious. We start this to help people. And the day we start taking this seriously, I know we have a TV show out of this, and we're at Apple and Bloomberg and Amazon. We've been all over the airports, hotel rooms, but I refuse, no matter what, to take myself seriously. And I know you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, just before we bring Omar on, I think I got our first sponsor for the new show.
Oh, nice. Perfect. And we
Yes.
will be announcing that new show as we bring on that new sponsor. And just wait, we got so many good things coming our way. And I can't imagine a better person to share it with than the incredible Blaine Bartlett. If you're interested in Blaine's mastermind as well, or Blaine helping you as a world business consultant, someone who has more situational knowledge and experience and helping others, including me, blainebartlett.com. But we have Omar waiting in the wings. So Raluca is our new producer, and she's doing an exceptional job. Raluca, you want to bring Omar in here? Omar Khan is here. He is the principal managing partner at Boardwalk Wealth. Welcome, Omar.
Hey, welcome, Dave. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Blaine. I got to tell you, Luca, she is very diligent because I've been on a lot of shows, a lot of podcasts. Nobody texts me and then calls me and then emails me and does it multiple times. And I'm usually very particular about my meetings, so I always want to get there on time. But I do appreciate what she's done, and not a lot of people do that.
That's great to hear.
When you work with me, you realize that one reminder is not enough, because I won't make it if all I get is one. And so I'm blessed. But more importantly, you help people with wealth. And I'd love to start with anyone in the wealth space to define, the difference between, being rich and being wealthy. What does being wealthy mean to you?
Well, David, look, I was lucky growing up that I was very grateful for my family's background. We were reasonably well-to-do. And for me, being wealthy, obviously, it's the obvious, you have money when you need it, but it's also having the time freedom to do what you want to do within boundaries. I mean, nobody has 100% time freedom, right? So you have time freedom to do what you want to do. You have an enriched life because you know many people. So anytime you need something, anytime you want something, anytime you want advice, you can reach out to somebody in your network. But most importantly, you have the luxury of knowing that work, you just don't have to pay your bills and feed your family. There is more to life, right? But so many of us are caught in the rat race. I gotta get my job. And look, I was one of them, right? I was in investment banking, finance. You get an analyst in investment banking, you got to become a director. You become a director, you got to become a managing director. That stuff never finishes, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, wealthy is having time freedom, having the time to do what I want to do, having the money to do when I want to do it. But most importantly, having access to people that when I need advice, when I need a second opinion, boom, it's right there.
The idea of accessibility, and that's one of the things that you're bringing to the table with your website and mailing list for folks. Particularly when we start looking, the talk about a recession on the horizon. Mindset, creates a lot of things, and I think mindset is absolutely catalytic in creating recessions. I don't think economic situations necessarily do. GDP, the growth rate for this last 2022 is 2.4%, which is not bad.
You're not losing money, because if you read the news, you would think we're all falling off a cliff and we're dying.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not the case at all. It is literally not the case. So if I was to go to your website, and because you've got all kinds of stuff up there. You've got 9+ hours of free courses and whatnot. What's the intent and how accessible is it? What's the demographic you're after?
The demographic basically is I'm in private equity real estate, because the reason is real estate has a couple of benefits. Now, this is not houses. This is not like some low-level stuff. We're basically buying large apartment complexes. Look, think about $20, $50 million deals, right? But traditionally, like in my investment banking days, what would happen is you would go to pension funds, institutions, right? Some people we hear about in the news, but nobody really knows what these people do, right? And you'd get money from them, right? For us, our average investor is somebody, say a doctor, business owner, professional. Their average investment starts at $50,000, right? But the biggest advantage they have, which we all face, is not just the amount of money we make, but the amount of money we keep. So there's a lot of tax benefits, basically, right? That when you're just investing in stock and bonds, you don't get, because any income you make is taxed at the higher possible rate. And look, think about it this way. You guys are highly successful people, right? Any additional dollar you make, God help you if you live in California, you've got to pay like 50% plus in taxes, right?
Everybody drop. There we go.
I mean, that's insane, right? What kind of perverse incentive is there that the most productive people in your society, you're actually telling them to not work? Like, what kind of insanity is this, basically, right? So when you structure your affairs sophisticated wise, you've got tax incentives. Real estate is a great way to do it, commercial real estate, right? Not only do you get to make a lot of money, you get to keep most, if not all of it. And that's the key, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing, not only on the tax side of things, but just at its core, our government, our laws, since the Constitution, every law created was based off of one key component, protecting the landowner. And so just on the premise alone of how the rules of our game, of our society are built, were protect the landowner, it would seem that most people would at least explore the different options, opportunities, and touches of favor of being a landowner. And I agree with you that wealth itself is having the capability to have more options, more opportunities, and touches of favor in your life. That's what wealth allows us to do, according to or aligned with what our values are, what we want in the trajectory of what we think we want. What's the biggest mistake that you see people making when they're trying to build wealth?
Well, the obvious one is, like lifestyle creep happens. People get a raise and, instead of having the same lifestyle, they start thinking, well, I deserve to have this because somebody down the street has this, right? That's dumb. We all know that. But because I deal primarily with high net worth, high income individuals, the thing that I see a lot of times is not focusing, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, not focusing on the tax piece, because it doesn't matter how much you make. You could make $20 million a year. If you're taxed up the wazoo, I mean, the solution to every single problem in life isn't to just run faster, do more work, have more hours. I mean, eventually, we all have 24 hours in the day, and most high-performing people, they're already working too much. Like, how do you create more hours? So focusing on the tax aspect, because that's typically the biggest expense a household has, but that's the one thing a lot of us don't even realize we have some control over.
Yeah. That is perfectly true. It doesn't make any difference how much I make. It's how much that I keep.
How much you keep. Yeah.
And I want you to, just for the listening audience here, make a distinction between wealth and income or cash. I mean, I know it's a very simplistic distinction.
I'll give you a very simple example. This is such a great question. I'll give you a very simple example. Who would you rather be? A person that makes every year has to get up, go to a job, do whatever they want, and make $500,000? Or somebody that has enough assets that regardless of what they do, those assets give them $500,000, $1 million a year? Who would you rather be? Every single person with a brain will tell you, I would much rather be the person who has assets that spit out $1 million a year versus the guy who has to get up every day and go earn $1 million a year. Right? That's the difference between wealth and income. Wealth allows you the luxury of focusing on the important things in life, your family, your community. If you're religious minded, your church or your temple, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, what use is working all this much, making all this income, high income, if we don't even have time to spend with our family, within our community, we improve the lives of people around us. But we can't do that if we're working 15, 16, 18 hours a day and stressed all the time.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted you to clarify that, Omar, is very simple here, because when you talk about you work with high net worth people, a lot of people will think in terms of income. And that's not what you're talking about.
Nope. I'm talking about people that are, say, your average doctor, your average business owners, right? You're making good money. Your problem is, where do you go invest it? How do you go invest it? You've been on the stock market roller coaster. It doesn't work. In fact, the richest Americans, all of the people we hear about, right? They're not heavily invested in the stock market. I mean, they have their own businesses. They're investing in all these things you hear about, but you never do. So if it works for the rich people or the really uber wealthy, why can't it work for you?
It's amazing. And it's also it's also formulatic in nature. That,
Exactly.
you know, one of the things that I like about real estate investment is that it's an area where we can find people who are already sitting in that situation and can give us not only instructions, but a lot of time allow us to invest in the jockey that already knows how to win the race.
Exactly.
So we don't have to, like when we build a law degree, a law practice or a medical practice or a roofing company or whatever else may be generating income. There's a lot of jockeys out there like you that are able and capable of winning the race because you've already paid the dummy tax. You have all the relationships. You have the situational knowledge in order to get the returns of that tax-free income or sustainable wealth. And I think a lot of people discount that, you know, whether there's a management fee or not, or whatever the consultative situation is, a lot of times that's the best investment you can make, because you talk about taxes being the greatest expense that we carry. Dummy tax is even greater than governmental tax. And, you know, real estate's one of those areas where you can diffuse and dissipate the dummy tax by having people who have already either paid it or learned from people like me who have paid the dummy tax in millions and millions of dollars. So I think that mentorship and experience also plays well in the real estate space. How do you mentor or perform as a jockey? If I'm a doctor with, you know, an extra couple $1 million, how does that relationship work in investing in your firm?
Well, look, that's very simple. You join our mailing list by visiting my website, boardwalkwealth.com. The form is right on the homepage. And again, if you join
Do
now,
you guys use Jotform, by the way?
I think some of my marketing people use Jotform, but at the back end, I think you're right. I have to look into it. But you know, you go to our website, boardwalkwealth.com. As Dave mentioned, you can have access to my hidden mobile app, 9 hours of free passive investing courses. But when you join, the thing becomes you're on our mailing list now, right? Now you start getting access to all these private deals that you're not going to get access to otherwise. You know, you can go to your Charles Schwab account, click a button and get access to this thing. That's the whole point. Guys, there is a club. And either you're in the club or you're not in the club. That's just the way it is. It's always been the way it is, right? If you want to do something where you're going to outperform the average person, you have to take steps that the average person is not taking. That has always been the case. Personal development, investing, improving your relationship with your spouse. It is all the same. Same fundamentals apply.
You're so smart. Well, thank you, Omar, for joining us. Check out Change Your Life, Build Your Wealth, Your Health, Your Worthiness, boardwalkwealth.com. Easy to take advantage of. We'll have you back on. Thank you for empowering so many people and building so much wealth for so many to have the options, opportunities, and touches of favor that we all deserve in our lives. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Blaine. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Omar.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye.
Thank you for being on.
Great having you. All right. We
Wow.
started with David and
Good
we'll
stuff.
end with David. It is so good. David Mignon is here, CEO of carparts.com. Look at that smile. He's there against the wall. He looks like an old album cover there.
Not that old. Come on.
That does.
Well, you know, I want to start with just a combination today. You are the CEO, but formerly you've served as roles as COO and CFO, which are two of the capabilities that I look for in CEOs when I'm building a company to put into place. And, you know, I'm always wondering the differential or differentiators between someone that has held all the positions. You know, what do you think the key differences are between being a CEO now, which you are at carparts.com, between a CEO, a COO, and a CFO? What are the key differentiators between those roles?
That's a great question. I think there's definitely a lot of commonalities, right? In terms of building a team, having that financial acumen, focusing on unit economics. I think the biggest difference is, you know, as CEO, you got to let go. You need to have that long-term view, and you need to empower your team to do the work that you used to do yourself. So it's a journey. It's not always easy to let go, but for me, it's been the main difference.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, the COO, operational, CFO, strategic finance focus, that sort of a thing. The CEO. Now, in the time that your tenure as CEO, and if I got the numbers right on this, 9 consecutive quarters of year-over-year growth. Is that correct?
11 quarters.
Now. Okay. All right. So, what do you attribute that to outside of familiarity with the organization from a strategic perspective? And this is where the CEO comes in. How have you positioned the company that is different than when you actually stepped in as the CEO?
Yeah, I think that's it's the team and the culture. The industries change. The economic environment definitely change. The stock market, goes up and down. I've seen our stock at 88 cents a share and $24 a share. But what stands true is really like the culture, the focus on the customer, the focus on financial discipline, operational excellence, and just focusing on the blocking and tackling. I think the one thing that we changed 9 months ago is as we get into 2023, which we think is a more difficult economic environment, is priorities, focus, intentionality. That's the big pivot. Whereas, 2021, 2022, we had a lot of projects in flight. 2023, much more focused.
Mm-hmm. So
would you rather?
Go ahead, David. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, obviously, supply chain was a huge issue for you, and I was going to say, would you rather be facing the supply chains issues of the past comparatively to the economic conditions of 2023?
I think every challenge, every obstacle is an opportunity. It makes us better as a company. It makes us better as a team. I've been at the company for 4 years, and our team has faced a lot of different challenges, like a lot of companies out there. The question is, how do you turn it into an opportunity, build a business that's going to stand the test of time, and just get after it and crush the competition? So for me, I'll take both, and I'll take both at the same time if that's what it takes to win.
Oh, I love it.
I love that. I mean, that's a sharp answer. I like that a lot. Yeah, you've hired over 800 people in the last couple of years. You've got over 2,000 employees now globally. And you're known for your people first philosophy and the culture that you and the organization actually has developed as a consequence of that. As a global organization, the idea of people first, how are you actually executing on that? And I use the word executing very specifically here. Larry Bossidy, when he was at Allied Signal, said the secret to any organization's success is execution, execution, execution. How are you executing and maintaining a people first? Not that they're mutually exclusive, but how are you actually marrying those two?
Yeah, I think for us, we like to say that nothing good happens behind a desk. You just got to go out there and spend time in the front lines, whether it's in our distribution centers or whether it's in our global offices. So last week, just perfect example, I spent a week in Manila in the Philippines with our frontline teams. We have over 550 people there. And so it's a full week of spending time with, technology, marketing, catalog, talking to customers, listening to our team. What are their needs? What can we do better as an organization? What can we do to service our customers? And then come back to headquarters and execute. To your point, execution, but the execution starts with spending time with our frontline teams. There's only so much information that gets up to me. I got to go out there and find it.
Yeah, that's good.
And one of the other responsibilities as CEO, as I was a young CEO of a public company, is shareholder value. And one of the lessons that Blaine taught me was to, David, always look at what you do have control of, your mindset, your heart set, your handset. You always have control of those. One thing that you don't have control of as a CEO, but are a target of at all times, is stock price. And one of the biggest challenges when I was a young CEO was not emotionally attaching to the price of the stock where it laid and sticking to what I could control. I'm sure as you have moved from being a CFO and COO into a CEO role of a public company, that there has been great emotional lessons of understanding your lack of control of a stock and the pressure and perception that comes with being in control of a company, but not in control of the stock price. How have you been able to reconcile that emotional conflict that is a struggle for every public CEO, whether they're new or have been around the game for 30 years?
Yeah, I can tell you've been there. For me, it's detach, 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 similar to the execution piece. It's not always easy, right? There's a lot of ups and downs. To your point, there's a lot of things that we control: the work ethic, what time we show up to work, how many times we go to the front line, how much time we spend with the team, who we hire, how we manage, priorities. So I try to focus on that and building a culture of excellence and really execution. It's not that easy. It's not an exact science. I just try to focus on the business, delivering outstanding customer value, and then hopefully over the long term, the stock price will reflect the value that we created. Over the last 4 years, it did. It's going to get better over time, but I just got to focus on my job and build a team and execute.
That's great. This is a real non sequitur, left field sort of a question. When I saw you were going to be on today and I saw, car parts, my brain immediately went to an old radio show, Car Talk with Frick and Frack.
Lost.
Oh, you lost it? Yeah, I was asking about an old show.
I lost audio, guys. Sorry.
Oh, can you hear us
now?
No. All right. Try to log back in if he can, Raluca. Anyway, here, we'll do takeaway of the day real quick. And if he comes back on, we'll have him back.
Yeah.
I will tell you that we have so many interviews, Blaine. We've done hundreds of these episodes. We have TV shows, everything. And I always know when I have someone that's giving me the gold nugget answers. And I'm very impressed with David. I think we both were, he's definitely a leader that you put into place. And I can see why they elevated his role to CEO from CFO and COO, because he has the intangibles of being a great leader. Every answer is attuned to what you have taught me and taught so many other people as well. And his answers, we're shaking our heads like a jury ready to agree whatever he says. So anyway, what's your takeaway for the day?
I'm going to just land on one word: form. And a top of the hat to Jotform. But the idea of being able to sequence data, to capture information so that it can be executed on, so that it can be leveraged, whether it's through planning, setting up, your A goals, that, whatever it might come down to. But the idea, having a way to organize so that you can execute. Ideation is one thing, but unless you've got a throughput plan that you can actually get your arms around and execute on, knowing that God is going to laugh at you in the midst of all of that, that's a big takeaway, I think, because a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They just kind of by the seat of their pants, what worked yesterday is going to work tomorrow, and it's not always the case.
Yeah. And, my takeaway for the day is an old saying that you and I both know: you got to see the trees through the forest. Yeah. And I think all four of our guests, broke down their expertise. Of, look how much you're keeping. These are just simple things to look at. The people in the car parts business or in the planning, hey, how productive are you? One thing a day or whatever it is. I think it's really important that, especially with the data overflow and the connectivity overflow and the action overflow and all the things that we have today that are just overwhelming and overflowing, that we still best are suited to see the trees through the forest and remember and recollect what's most important, and be able to create decisions aligned with most important according to whatever business it is. And I also want to thank David for joining us. Go to carparts.com. Extraordinary leader, Blaine Bartlett. If anybody wants to learn to be a great leader, that's the guy that I learned from. BlaineBartlett.com, the mindset mastermind. Thank you for mentoring me and so many others, my friend. I will see you soon.
Absolutely. Love you, buddy. You take care.
Love you, man. Have a good ferry ride.
Okay.
That's right. That's Blaine Bartlett. He's so rich, he doesn't need the internet. All right. Join me. If anybody would like my daily practices or my books, my guides, my exercises, I'll sign a book, send it to you, pay for shipping. David at daviddmeltzer.com. We had a mobile portion. We got a closet portion. We're all over the place, but it doesn't matter where we are. It's what we bring, and we bring content to be good to your future self, to be kind to your future self, to allow you to do more good deeds by being more interested than interesting, joining us every day. It's office hours. We're here all the time. Watch the replays, watch the new ones. There's plenty of content for you. If you need anything, all you got to do is ask David@dmeltzer.com. Thank you, everyone. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great night.